It was the last day of secondary school, just before the prep period for our final exams. My classmates had decided to skip the last 2 classes of the day, and I decided to follow their lead. As we attempted to escape, we were chased by the school's headmaster. When I suddenly came face to face with him, he seemed shocked, repeating over and over, "Even you?" I did not understand the meaning of his words until 25 years later when I began my journey of introspection. Similarly, I remember the overwhelming emotions I had for my favorite soccer team when I was young. We used to side with our favorite teams at school and divide ourselves accordingly. We would love and hate based on these allegiances. This led to conflict, confrontation, and sometimes violence. Another thing I recall about this time is how the response of the individual students differed based on whether they were alone or part of the group. It was as if the individual mind was displaced by a collective mind that allowed them to act more aggressively than if they were alone. I didn't realize at the time that I was living through the manifestation of the collective ego, the human counterpart to the flocking of birds, fish, or other mammals as a means of protection. I did not realize at that time the danger posed by the collective ego. I found that the collective ego has many similarities to the individual ego. It constantly seeks conflict and struggle. It needs to always prove itself right, and for this reason, it continuously looks for the fault in others. As such, it is only a matter of time before the collective egos of different groups come into conflict. The collective ego's lack of awareness is even stronger than that of the individual ego. This may explain crimes committed by the group that individuals would never commit on their own when they are outside the collective mind. I found an interpretation of the collective ego's madness in its perception of the world. The perception of us versus them. This collective ego believes it is in possession of absolute truth and sees only what it wants to see. It condemns and demonizes the behavior of others so as to deprive them of humanity. The collective ego blinds us to our common humanity, paving the way for genocide, ethnic cleansing, wars, violence, torture, rape, and enslavement. How does the individual's mind and conscience allow for such atrocity? Hitler and the Nazis slaughtered millions. More than 20 million were killed in Stalin's Russia. Mass killings have taken place in Cambodia, Bosnia, Syria, and more. These ruthless examples abound in our modern world and fill up our headlines almost daily. Researching the collective ego led me to the term herd behavior, a term used to describe the behavior of people in a group. This term was first introduced as a scientific and philosophical theory in 1973 by biologist W.D. Hamilton. The theory states that every individual in a group serves his or her own interests, just like animals in a herd. The individual minimizes their own personal risk by joining the group and sharing their morals and modes of behavior. Though the herd seems unitary, it is in reality serving the individual interests of its members. Researchers from the University of London and the University of Cambridge studied 46 sheep. They linked each member of this group with a GPS device to monitor its movement second by second. They found that if any member of the flock detects danger, it moves to the center of the herd, squeezing its way between the others and away from the periphery that is most vulnerable to predators. This is, of course, ultimate selfishness. The same goes for human beings. It was found that people minimize the danger of becoming victims by joining into larger groups. It is as if each member of the group is saying, "Destroy another member of the group, just not me." This is the silent majority, preferring its own safety to victory for truth or defense of the weak. They may even go further, exaggerating their loyalty and identifying with a central and just idea to further protect their well-being. I found that the compulsive behavior that is implicit in the herd theory is also intrinsic to the human psyche. Before the time of Islam, the tribe was the embodiment of the collective mind and collective ego. As a result, Islam addressed this behavior and taught us how to combat it. A pre-Islamic poet once said, "I am but from my tribe. If my tribe is misguided and goes astray, then I will follow. And if my tribe were to follow the right path, then so will I." Islam asserted each soul's responsibility for its own actions. The Quran is rich with verses that critique herd behavior. For example, it says, "If you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of God." Islam called for the liberation of the mind and for using it to search for truth, free from the influence of others. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, Don't let yourselves be yes men who say, if the people are good, then we will be good. And if they are wrong, then we will be wrong. Rather, make up your own minds. If people do good, then do good. And if they do evil, then don't follow. As we look further in the Quran, we will find many examples of individuals who had the courage to stand against the crowd and fight for a noble cause. The believer who defended Moses, peace be upon him, in front of the house of Pharaoh. And in a chapter called Yasin, another believer crossed the desert to oppose the herd and support the prophets, even though he knew the punishment would be death. And the companions of the cave who had the courage to stand against a tyrant. The famous Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said, "Follow the path of guidance and deterred that only a few take it, and beware of the path of misguidance. Do not be tempted by the many that perish over it." Similarly, the noble companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, "The true community is that which adheres to righteousness, even if you're the only one in it." I realized that herd culture is that of people who have no culture, and that dying with the group is not the blessing they believe it to be. And saying follow the crowd is only a form of ignorance. I realized that most people are eager to embrace the group and go with the flow for the sole purpose of getting through life. The herd mindset absolves them from the blame of their own shortcomings and mistakes. Joining the herd is a manifestation of the absence of reason, so that the individual may be controlled by the irrationality of the group, becoming less humane and more savage. I became certain that those within the herd are deceived, because we will each separately stand in the presence of God to answer for all of our words and deeds.